Placentation Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Okay, so the gynoecium is the female reproductive organ of a flowering plant. It is the female reproductive organ of a flowering plant. The gynoecium consists of carpels. Now these carpels, most times it might just be one, it might be few, or probably most times we have many carpels. Don't forget the gynoecium consists of the carpels. Carpels might be one, few, or many. One, few, or what? Or many. Now, carpels, a single carpel or a single structure of several fused carpel is called pistil. A single carpel or a single structure of several fused carpel is called pistil. It's called what? Pistil. For last time, it is called pistil. Now, a pistil having one carpel, recall, it is a carpel. A single carpel is called pistil. A single structure of several fused carpels. You might have like 5 carpels, but if they are forming one single structure, we'll call it pistil. One single carpel, we'll call it pistil. Now, a pistil having only one single carpel is called monocarpous. It's called monocarpous. A pistil having 2 or more carpel is called polycarpous. A pistil having, okay, we're done with one, and we're done with, okay, few and many. Now, in some cases, you might get to see a pistil having a carpel that is fused together. They are not separate, they are fused together. And we call them syncarpous. And lastly, you might get to see a pistil that have carpel that are freedom. They are separate. And we call them apocarpous. That's why I take it again. A pistil having one carpel is called monocarpous. A pistil having 2 or more is called polycarpous. A pistil having fused carpel joined together is called syncarpous. The word syn talks about fuse. It talks about synergistic movement. It talks about 2 parts working together for a cause. And poly means many, mono means one. Apocarpous simply means they are what? Free. It simply means they are free in this case, apo free in this case. So I quickly take it again. The gynoecium is the female reproductive organ of a plant. It consists of the carpel, which is one, few, or many. A single carpel or a single structure of several fused carpel is called the pistil. A pistil with one carpel is monocarpous, 2 or more polycarpous, fused syncarpous, and free is what? Apocarpous. Apocarpous. Now the pistil is made up of 3 different parts. One is called the stigma. Another is the style, and lastly, we have the ovary. The pistil is made up of 3 different parts: stigma, style, and ovary. Let me quickly show you the structure. Okay, now this particular edge here is called, that is the stigma, and here we have the ovary. Most times we might have another structure here like that, but we call this is the ovary. Now the connection between what connects the stigma to the ovary is called the style. The style is the connecting tube between the stigma and the ovary. The style is the passage between the stigma and the ovary. And when pollen drops here, it stays here, it matures with this, then it germinates and it enters here. This, at that point, we call this the pollen tube. It germinates, then it comes down and it gets fertilized with it. So we have the stigma, the style, and the ovary. Now, what is the function of the stigma? The stigma receives pollen. The stigma receives pollen. The style connects the stigma to the ovary. The style connects the stigma to the ovary. Now, what is the function of the ovary? The ovary contains 2 or more ovoid structure. The ovary contains 2 or more ovoid structure called the what? The ovus. The ovus have ovoid structure. The ovary contains 2 or more ovoid structure called the ovus. The ovus houses the egg cell. The ovule houses the egg cell. Don't forget. Now, it is very, very important for you to note that as time goes on, the ovary will develop into fruit, while the ovus will develop into seed. Ovus develop into seed, ovary develops into fruit. I think the last time the stigma receives the pollen, they start connect the stigma to the ovary. The ovary contains two or more ovoid structure called the ovus. The ovus contain the egg cell. Ovus will later develop into seed. Ovary will later develop into fruit. So you need to quickly get used to all these facts. So I tell you for last time, the calyx, the unit of the calyx is called the sepal. Sepals are usually small and green, and so they help in photosynthesis. They help in protecting the flower at the bud stage. And one thing about them is that when they are fused, they are called gamosepalous. When they are free, they are called polycephalous. And then we looked at the second one, which is called the corolla. I said the unit of corolla is called the petal. Petals are brightly colored, and so they are used in attracting, pollinating insects. I said they are the second word. I said when they are fused, they are called polypetalous. When they are free, they are called gamopetalous. I said when the sepal and the petals look alike, both in size, shape, and color, and every other thing, similarity, we call them perianth. Then we did not stop there. We look at androecium. I said androecium is the male reproductive organ of a flower. I said the androecium, the unit of androecium or androecium consists of what we call stamen. Stamen is made up of the filament, the anther, and the pollen grain. And I said the pollen grain is a fine yellow particle. I said the pollen grain consists of two coats, intern and exine. Exine is external, intern is internal. It has the tube nucleus and it has the generative nucleus as well. And then after that, we looked at gynoecium, which is a female reproductive organ consisting of carpel, which can be one, few, or many. I said a single carpel or a single structure of several fused carpel is called the pistil. I said the pistil having one carpel is called monocarpous, having two or more is called polycarpous, having fused carpel is called syncarpous, having free carpel is called apocarpous. And then we got here and I explained this. And so now we'll be looking at ovary types. After then we'll look at flowering types and then placentation. Okay, so welcome back. Now we're looking at ovary types. We've been able to establish the definition of flower, the different flower parts ranging from calyx, corolla, gynoecium, and androecium. So now we'll be looking at ovary types. Now what dictates the types of ovary? What really dictates the types of ovary is the positioning of the ovary. The positioning of the ovary will determine the types of ovary that will result. The positioning of the ovary will determine the type of ovary that will result. We have floral part and we have got ovary. If it happens that the ovary is above the floral part, if the ovary is above the floral part, there is a name we call it. If the ovary is below the floral part, there is a name we call it. If the ovary is at the same level with the floral part or slightly above, there is a name we call it. Now it will interest you to note, as I said earlier, that the positioning of the ovary in the receptacle will determine the type of ovary that will arise. The positioning of the ovary in the receptacle. The position of the ovary in the receptacle will determine the type of ovary that would arise or that would result. So let's go. So on that note, we have three different types of ovary. I have the superior ovary, we have the half inferior, and lastly we have the inferior ovary. So we have the superior ovary, half inferior ovary, and lastly we have the inferior ovary. And so now what are the superior ovary, or what is a superior ovary? A superior ovary is a type of ovary that is placed above other floral parts. What do I mean by other floral parts? The other floral parts here are the calyx, the corolla, and the stamen. When the ovary is placed above them, when the ovary is placed above them, above the calyx, the stamen, and the corolla, we call it superior ovary. Now what do I mean by it is placed above? I'm not talking about the extreme end. If, for example, now this is our ovary, these are ovary. I'm talking about the origin of the ovary. I'm not talking about this end. It is not this end that will determine if it is half superior, inferior, or superior. No. It is this origin. If this origin is above other floral parts, like we have another floral part like this. Now, if it is just here, if this one is above other floral parts, like the sepal, the corolla, and all that, once it is above other floral part, we'll call it what? Superior ovary. A superior ovary is a kind of ovary that is located above other floral part. It is located above the calyx, above the corolla, and above the stamen. It is located above other floral part. So a flower having a superior ovary is said to be what? Anybody? It's said to be hypogynous. Hypogynous. A flower having a superior ovary is said to be hypogynous. Hypogynous simply means, the word hypo means low. It means the floral parts are low. The floral parts are low compared to the position of the ovary. So we call it hypogynous. Don't forget, a superior ovary is a kind of ovary that is placed above other floral parts. A flower having superior ovary is called hypogynous flower. Hypogynous flower. Hypogynous flower. So let's take a look at half inferior. Half inferior ovary is the intermediate between these two. Now for this particular one, the ovary is placed at the same level with other floral parts. Other floral parts, sepal, calyx, calyx, corolla, and stamen. They are placed at the same level with the ovary. In some cases, the ovary might be slightly higher than other floral parts. However, it is still called half inferior ovary. So a kind of ovary that has this kind of arrangement is called half inferior ovary. A kind of flower having half inferior ovary is called perigynous flower. It is called a perigynous flower. It is called a perigynous flower. And lastly, we have the inferior ovary. In the inferior ovary, the ovary is placed below other floral parts. The calyx, the corolla, and the stamen, they are high above the ovary. So a flower having inferior ovary is said to be what? Epigynous. It's said to be epigynous flower. And that means other floral parts are high compared to the ovary. So now we'll be looking at flowering terms. Then after that, we'll look at placentation. Okay, so now we'll be looking at flowering terms. We'll be looking at inflorescence, solitary flower, perfect flower, imperfect flower, complete flower, incomplete flower, regular flower, irregular flower, bisexual flower, unisexual flower, monoecious, dioecious, essential part, and non-essential part of a flower. What is inflorescence? Inflorescence simply talk about different flowers arranging themselves on a single stalk. I will have a flower and we have another flower. We have like 100 flowers. When all the flowers arrange themselves on a single stalk, when they arrange themselves and at the end of the day they have a single stalk, we call such a flower inflorescence. We call the arrangement, if you have a flower, and all of them they are arranged in a single stalk, we call them what? Inflorescence. The arrangement of flower in a single stalk, on a single axis, they are called what? Inflorescence. What is solitary flower? Solitary talks about, the word solitary talks about unity. It talks about unity in the sense that one, you're alone, like you're just there. It talks about singleness. So solitary flower is a single flower that is born on a leaf axis. It's a single flower. If for example now this is we have a leaf here. It is born on a leaf axis. Are you with me? A solitary flower is a single flower that is born on a leaf axis. It's just there alone, single on its own. Now we're done with this. A perfect flower. What is a perfect flower? A perfect flower. Now perfection of a flower speaks about a flower having both the male and the reproductive part and the female reproductive part. So a flower having both the male and both the male reproductive part and the female reproductive part is said to be perfect. It's said to be perfect. And so when somebody sees a flower and the person notices that flower has the male part and the female part, you can say safely that flower is perfect. That flower is perfect. Don't forget, I said earlier that when they say a flower is terminate, it means the flower is male. And when they say a flower is pistillate, it means the flower is female. And so in this case, I will have both the stamen and the pistil. So a flower having both the carpel and the pistil is called what? A perfect flower. What is an imperfect flower? An imperfect flower is a flower having either the male reproductive part or the female reproductive part. They don't have both. It is either the flower is male flower or the flower is female flower. It is not the case of a flower having both male and female. No. A flower that has both male and female is called perfect. But an imperfect is one that has only male or only female. So let's move on. And now in that case, that reminds me, a flower having both the male and the female parts can be called an hermaphroditic flower. Hermaphrodite. and they have both the male and the female. Don't forget. And now we'll look at complete flower. What is a complete flower? Before now, I've established the fact that we have 4 floral parts: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. A flower having these 4 parts is said to be complete. A flower having 4 floral parts is said to be complete. A flower in which 1 part or 2 or 3 is missing is called incomplete flower. A flower that does not have all floral parts, the 4 complete, is called incomplete flower. They might have just 3, they might have 2. In a flower, any kind of flower you notice, where 1 or more floral parts is missing, is said to be incomplete flower. Now they are missing naturally, not that you go there and you pluck it away, naturally. Now regular flower, or what is a regular flower? Now there are some points you need to know before you can say a flower is regular. Now regular here is not talking about you being punctual or you doing a particular thing and another. No, regular here speaks of things that are peculiar to flowers. And now listen, follow me closely. Now a flower has 4 floral parts. If you notice a flower that has 4 floral parts and the floral parts are well arranged, they are well arranged on both sides. They are well arranged in size. Their sizes are the same. They are, if on the right hand side you have a particular structure, that particular structure is also on the left hand side. And now those are the features that you would see and say, okay, this flower might be regular flower. Now stage 2, there are other factors or other features that you still need to take a look at. Now the other feature is this: when you cut the flower through any vertical plane, horizontal, vertical. Now, at any vertical point you pick and you try to cut the flower into 2 similar halves. The part here must be a mirror image of the other part here. What am I trying to say? The part here the features on this part, the structures on this part must also be seen here. That is stage 2. Now, stage 3, after this flower has passed stage 1 and stage 2, you can now say, okay, that particular flower has tested positive to regularity. Now, a regular flower in all totality is a flower that can be cut through at any vertical plane and it will still give you 2 similar halves. When you cut through at any point, the part here will be the mirror image of the part here. Another word for regular flower is actinomorphism. Actinomorphic. A regular flower is said to be actinomorphic. Now, actinomorphic flower or regular flower undergo what we call radial symmetry. Radial symmetry. It simply means you can cut through at any point vertically and you still have similar halves. So we are done with that. Irregular flower. Irregular flower is a complete opposite of regular flower. Irregular flower is called zygomorphic flower. Zygomorphic. It's called zygomorphic flower. The kind of symmetry they undergo is bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry. It simply means all you need to do concerning this flower is to cut through the flower from only one vertical plane. If you can just cut through and you have similar, then it's bilateral. But once you can cut through at any vertical plane, more than one, any vertical plane, then you can say the flower is radial symmetry or actinomorphic flower. So that's irregular flower, and that's all about bisexual flower. So now we'll be looking at, and that's all about irregular flower rather. Bisexual flower. What is a bisexual flower? The word bisexual talks about 2. Now a bisexual flower talks about 2, and the word sexual talks about gametes. Those parts that are involved in reproduction. Those parts that are involved in the production of gametes. So let's combine it together and let's give a standard definition. A bisexual flower is a flower that has both the stamen and the carpel. What do I mean by the stamen and the carpel? A bisexual flower is a flower that has both the male and the female reproductive part. A bisexual flower is a flower that has both the male and the female reproductive part. A bisexual flower is a flower that has both the male and the female reproductive part. What is unisexual flower there? A unisexual flower is a flower that has either the male part or the female part. They don't have both. They either have the male part or the female part. So they are either male or female. Now, bisexual flower can also be referred to as hermaphrodite. Now, what is monoecious? Monoecious can also be called monoacy. As you do hear about monoacy, don't get carried away. Monoecious and dioecious. What is monoecious? Monoecious is a kind of situation or phenomenon where the male and the female flower are born on the same plant. And a particular plant, I have the male flower, I have the female flower on one plant. We'll call it monoecious, like your maize and purple. I have the male part, I have the female part on the same plant. On the same plant, the male flower and the female flower on the same plant. So we say it is what? Monoecious. However, when I have only the male part on one plant and the female part on another plant, it is called dioecious. Dioecious simply means on a particular plant, we have only the male part or only the female part, but not both. Essential parts. What is an essential part of a flower? The essential part of a flower are those parts that are involved in reproduction. And what are they? Good. Your guess is as good as mine. The essential parts are called the carpel and the stamen. What do I mean by this? I'm talking about the hydroecium and the gynoecium. The carpel and the stamen are the essential part. The non-essential part are the parts that are not involved. They are not involved whatsoever in reproduction. What do we call them? We call them the calyx and the corolla. We call them the calyx and the corolla. So we'll talk about inflorescence, we'll talk about solitary flower, we'll talk about perfect flower, we'll talk about imperfect flower, we'll talk about complete flower, incomplete flower, regular flower, irregular flower, bisexual flower, unisexual flower, monoecious, dioecious, essential part, and the non-essential part. So lastly, we'll be traveling into the world of placentation. You and I will solve together and we will surely enjoy. Okay, so lastly, we'll be looking at placentation. Now we've got placentation in animals, in humans, and we also have placentation in plants. What is placentation? In plants, strictly speaking, placentation is the arrangement of ovules within the ovary. Placentation is the arrangement of ovules within the ovary. Lastly, placentation is the arrangement of ovules within the ovary. Placentation is the arrangement of ovules within the ovary. What then is placenta in plant? Placenta is a fleshy structure that connects the ovules to the ovary. The ovules are connected to the ovary via a fleshy structure called placenta. The baby is actually connected to the womb through the placenta. In plants, the ovules are connected to the ovary via a fleshy structure called the placenta. What are the types of placentation that we've got? We have marginal placentation, we have parietal placentation, we have free central placentation, we have exile placentation, and lastly we have basal placentation. Marginal placentation, parietal placentation, free central placentation, exile placentation, and lastly we have got basal placentation or basal placentation, as the case may be. Now, what is marginal placentation? And now for marginal placentation, the ovules are attached to the placenta along one margin. The ovules are attached to the placenta along one margin. Now basically you have a structure that is something like this. You have another one. Now this here is the placenta. Now this is one margin, this is another margin. Only on one margin. Only on one margin, that is where you find the ovules. The ovules are attached to the placenta along one margin. One margin. And so we call them marginal. A very good example is your beans, Cassia filiformis, Delonis regia, called the flame of the forest. And they also fall under this category. Now, parietal placentation. What is parietal placentation? Parietal placentation, for this kind of placentation, the ovules are attached to the sides of a syncarpous ovary. The word syncarpous, don't forget, is fused. Fused ovary, a kind of ovary. How do I do this? We have one, they are fused. We have another, they are fused. We have another, they are fused like that. They are all joined together, and so they form this kind of placenta. Now, when the ovules are attached, along the side of a syncarpous ovary, we call it parietal. A very good example is your pawpaw. And most of the time when you buy pawpaw and you try to you slice it into two and you look in between, you see the way the seeds, the ovules are arranged. Recall, the ovules form the seed. Now the ovules are arranged along the syncarpous ovary. Now it's actually a beautiful sight to behold. Parietal placentation is for pawpaw. So now we will be looking at the third one, which is free central. Free. Here the ovules are born on a knob. And the ovules are born on a knob which projects from the base. They project from the base. They would come out somehow here, from here. They project from underneath. The ovules are born on a knob which project from the base of the ovary. From the base, so they come out and you see them here. From the base of the ovary. Example is the canna lily. It is called Indian short. And now when you see the canna lily, part of the flower stems out and it has a reddish flower, as if a bullet is about to leave the god. Exile placentation, which is the last one, okay, which is second to last. For exile placentation, the carpels of a syncarpous ovary, the carpels of a syncarpous ovary, a fused ovary, what happened to them? They meet in the center. They meet in the center to form the placenta to which the ovules are attached. And now, I know you've seen a tomato before. I will now just try and slice through a tomato. What you see, that structure you see, is what we call exile placentation. You see the ovules, all of them at their center, like then they will now come to the center. And at that center, that's where the ovules lie. So the ovules are attached at the center. The carpels of a syncarpous ovary meet in the center to form the placenta to which the ovules are attached. So a very good example is your tomato or your pepper, basically. Lastly, we have the basal placentation. Here the ovules are attached at the base of the syncarpous ovary. Whenever this is a syncarpous ovary, instead of it coming up, it goes down at the base of the syncarpous ovary. A very good example is the sunflower, Elianthus species, sunflower. Indeed, it has been a nice time out with you. Some questions will pop up on your screen. I'll do the needful. I really appreciate your concentration and the feedback thus far. Stay blessed.